Like nothing ever fits quite right. Like my skin is some kind of too tight shirt that I can never change out of.
Like everyone is always staring at me, like all of my flaws and differences are always visible.
It's the most vulnerable thing you can imagine, not having security in your own body.
Like I'm completely alone. Never able to completely relate to anyone, but at the same time, I'm always so crowded in that I can never think straight.
I can never really be comfortable when it feels like something so fundamental isn't quite right.
I feel better sometimes and worse at other times, but I don't think it'll go away until people start accepting me.
I don't think I would have dysphoria if people just accepted me.
I wish people could just see me for who I am.
I wish I could be accepted and loved by everyone, not just other transgendered people.
I wish I could be accepted and loved.
Transgender. The Webster English Dictionary defines transgender as of, relating to, or being a person who identifies with or expresses a gender identity that differs from the one which corresponds to the person's sex at birth. The Webster Medical Dictionary describes dysphoria as a state of feeling unwell or unhappy. Trans people I know describe being transgender as
Just another difference between people, like hair color or height or weight, that for some reason people find so offensive.
A part of myself that causes no harm to anybody else, but for some reason people hate.
Something I'm proud of, but something I wish didn't have to be such a contested issue.
and dysphoria.
Feeling unwell and unhappy. Yeah, unwell and unhappy with the person everybody wants to force me to be.
Uncomfortable because society tells me that I can't be who I am in the body that I was born with. Of course I want to change.
I don't think I would feel dysphoria at all if society just accepted that I am a boy, even if that isn't what I was assigned at birth.
You may have heard about transgender people in the news recently. Learned that celebrities such as Caitlyn Jenner had come out and were transitioning. Heard about transgender people clashing with authority over issues such as the use of gendered bathrooms. Coverage of transgender people in the media is not always flattering, but the word transgender has become a household term, and the issue of trans people and their rights has been brought to the international podium.
And the second is, namely this, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these.
I'm not asking you, assuming that you are not transgender, to understand what it is like to be trans. I doubt any non-trans person can. What I am asking you to do, and all of us to do, is to realize that just because we may not understand what it is like to be trans, that doesn't mean it's wrong. Some cisgender, non-transgender people claim transgenderism isn't actually a real thing, that it can't exist. Although they may never understand the feeling behind a transgender person's identity, this does not change the fact that 0.3% of the world's population identifies as transgender. This is around 21 million people. 21 million living, breathing human beings who deserve the same amount of love and respect as any other person. So yes, you don't understand what it is like to be transgender. You may not understand the whole idea of transgenderism at all. You may find it so foreign that your gut reaction is to think that it's wrong. For now, I'm going to have to accept that you probably won't understand it, and leave the exact instruction on the theory and concept to another educator. That doesn't change the fact that these people are out there, no matter how little you understand them. These people are real and they face struggles that they need support through, so even though you do not understand transgenderism, understand humanity. Understand that all humans are worthy of love and support. All humans deserve their basic human rights. And transgender people, just as worthy of their rights as any other person, have them taken away all too often. It might be easy to think that I'm making too big a deal out of this whole thing, but you might not realize all of the struggles that transgender people actually face. The numbers, however, will make it clear. First of all, researchers at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention found that 41% of transgender people have attempted suicide at one point of their lives, which is nearly 9 times the national average. Furthermore, about 49% of trans people have faced physical abuse, according to the Trans Student Educational Resources. Transgender students also reported harassment and bullying at a shocking rate, with 80% reporting that they feel unsafe at school because of their gender expression. Lastly, trans women face a 1 in 12 chance of being murdered. compared to 1 in 270, the US national average. So far this year, there have been 21 publicized counts of a trans woman being murdered, and unfortunately there are doubtless many more unreported. Of all the misfortunes that befall humanity, of the discomfort, danger, and loneliness, transgender people are the disproportionate victims. So what can you, the cisgender person, do about this? Well, the first step doesn't even require you to take much action at all. One of the most important things you can do is to further educate yourself about trans issues and trans people. Read literature written by trans people about their experience, and read about their theories on gender, so you can make logical sense of transgenderism. I'm expecting you to care about them just because they are human, but by doing more research you can also begin to care about and understand their issue itself. This will give you the ability to feel more compassion and take more action. Secondly, I would ask you to open dialogue with the people around you. Attempt to create a safe space for any transgender people who may be discovering themselves around you, and encourage others to do the same. By working to make your school a safe and accepting place, you can change the fact that 80% of transgender youths feel unsafe in school. Let people know you support transgender people, and please, if you find that someone close to you is trans, do not hesitate to support them. Tell them you love them and accept them and are willing to help them however you can, and you may very well be saving a life. By loving and accepting trans people and encouraging others to, you are actively making a world a better place. Lastly, if you are called to go above and beyond in the fight to improve trans lives, I suggest you look into activism going on in the trans community. Just a simple Google search can put you in touch with different groups organizing all sorts of different actions to bring awareness and justice for trans people. Little or big, your contribution to the trans community can save real people's lives and actively change the world. As transgender activist Laverne Cox said, we really are at a transgender tipping point. Lastly, I find it important to direct this next portion to transgender youth themselves. I can't know if any of you are here right now, but it is entirely possible, and so now I have a few words to say for you yourselves. A lot of what I have said today might have sounded depressing, and indeed the state of affairs is not as good as it should be. This, however, does not mean that you should lose hope. Your cause becomes more and more well known by the day, with more and more people becoming aware enough of the cause to support you. Even the President of the United States mentioned transgender rights, saying, "That's what we defend free speech and advocate for, people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender." Your best means of support and understanding, however, will most likely always come from each other. Luckily enough, you are part of a diverse and supportive community that grows by the minute, with each day bringing more and more people who are aware of themselves and able to help people like them find acceptance and happiness. The transgender community is making leaps and bounds in activism, and not only that, is also finding representation in art and other media. Transgender actress Laverne Cox's performance in the Netflix original Orange is the New Black brought a positive portrayal of a trans person to new audience and demonstrated the potential that transgender people have to excel in their fields of interest. Furthermore, transgender people are finding a foothold in other art forms as they find notoriety while spreading awareness for trans rights. Notable examples would be musician Laura Jane Grace of punk band Against Me, film director Lana Wachowski of The Matrix fame, and model Carmen Carrera, who is currently being promoted as a potential Victoria's Secret model. As you can see, being transgender should not stop you from fulfilling your dreams, and also means that you are part of a community currently innovating their art form and reaching new heights of achievement. Being a transgender youth is not a death sentence. It's simply another part of the story that will bring you experiences that you could never have had otherwise. If you find yourself in danger or need help in some way, you can also take advantage of the plethora of resources for trans youth popping up, such as Trans Lifeline, a trans-specific suicide hotline, or the profusion of law organizations dedicated to advocating for trans people facing injustice, such as the Sylvia Rivera Law Project. Finally, it is always important to remember that the tide is changing, and things are continuing to get better for your community as a whole. No matter how terrible things may seem at the moment, there are thousands of people like you to help you and resources for you to seek. Remember the fact that there are many people whose transgender identity has not stopped them from finding success and fulfillment. I can assure you that there is a lot out there to live for. And, to you non-trans people in the audience, please remember that you bring this change. There are far more of you than there are trans people, and so you hold the power to do what you can to help them. My promises to these people hinge on your actions. So please, don't hesitate in opening your mind to new ideas and preparing to love people unconditionally, even if you don't understand their actions. Their safety and survival depends on all of us. Please, love thy neighbor.